Hi and welcome to Homo Ludens, the channel on history and board games. It's been a while since I haven't done some live streams on the show, and it was mostly for personal reasons, holidays, and stuff like this. Now that I'm back, I'm going to try to have a somewhat regular schedule, even if I'm struggling to do anything regularly. But I will try to do something regularly and give some updates on Twitter. And now that I'm back, wait a minute, before you do the timeout, Joe, I'm going to introduce the topic of the stream, and this is Chicago 68, currently on Kickstarter. We usually don't do Kickstarter previews on this channel, but the game was designed by Yoni and developed by Joe, so it was hard for me not to actually feature it on the show. So it's completely unusual, exceptional, and it's just because I like those people a lot. so that's pretty much it. I've been excited about this game for quite a while now. Yoni, you demoed it to me a while ago. We played it together, and I thought it was awesome. And I was hoping that you would do a whole 1968 series, and I was trying to convince you to do for me to do Paris 68, but maybe you'll do it yourself. Anyway, we'll talk about all this and everything else, and we'll also demo the game, play it on TTS so you get a better feel. Just note that it is currently on Kickstarter. If I didn't make a mistake, there should be a link in the description to go to the Kickstarter. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And just a caveat, this is unpaid. I'm doing this for free. There is no exchange apart from friendship. I think that's pretty much it.
Transactional friendship.
Yeah. Transactional friendship, which is actually quite important in our community. But yeah, Yoni, Joe, thanks for being here. I see, Joe, that Arnaud has noticed your miniature display now. That it's pretty cool, pretty awesome. So that's very, very cool. Maybe you want to show some of the minis that you painted earlier today? I'm going to do this.
No, this is just a little bird. This is an ancient eagle, giant eagle. So there you go. That's a very old miniature.
Very, very
That's all
cool.
I'm going to show you.
Okay, but yeah, so Joe, it looked like in the intro you wanted to say something. Should I pay attention to you or?
No. I doubted you for a moment, but I should never have doubted you. So it's all good.
Yeah. That's a lesson for everyone. So keep that in mind. But yeah, Yoni, super happy to have you here. You've been on the show already a couple of times or a single time?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Times. Yeah, we played Khan before.
Oh yeah, we played Cannes, and you've been here for the stream on historical gaming and social movements. So those are the two. And now you're back to present your first game. It is not the only game that you've designed, but we'll talk about this later. But maybe can you give us an overview of what is Chicago 68? Well, from the name we can figure out what it is about, but maybe provide a bit of historical context, and then I'll ask you questions about the design.
Sure. Well, Chicago 68 is a historical conflict game about the 1968 Democratic National Convention and the summer of riots and civil unrest. In this game, players take the roles of either the establishment or the demonstrators in an asymmetrical sort of match of street battles, radical theatrics, and machine politics. So yeah, it's a like we can put on the TTS. We can give it a little go, but it's a game that plays over the course of 3 days during the nomination of the 1968 presidential candidate to run against Nixon. So this was like a particularly heated moment in American history. This was right after the assassination of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. The president of the United States decides to withdraw from the race. And then you have essentially kind of a competition between the pro-war camp of the Democratic Party and the sort of like the anti-Vietnam War sort of dovish candidates. And the game has you take on the roles, like I said, of either demonstrators who are sort of composed of these civil rights and anti-war protesters as they're trying to influence the happenings in the convention center and create sort of media spectacle. And then on the other side, you have the establishment, which is composed of the party bosses and the city administration and the Chicago police. And they're trying to impose civil order and contain the demonstrators.
And I have a question that I like to ask designers, and especially first-time designers, and that's, why did you want to make this game? Why did you want to make a game in the first place, and why a game about this specifically? Why do you think it's important for you to spend so much time on doing something
Good,
like this?
Good question. Well, so yeah, this game has a couple of points of origin. I started working on this during COVID lockdown, and it really began as an iteration on sort of a little known Jim Dunnigan design called Chicago, or Mrs. Leary's Cow, Where Are You When We Really Need You? And that was a game that he made, I think, in like 1970. So he must have been working on it, like in 1969 or so. So it's like it is essentially reportage on the events that's depicted in the game. And I started, first I built my own version of that game, and then I started iterating, and then, eventually it sort of transformed into its own game. And this was, I was, like I said, in COVID lockdown. This was like May 2020 when we saw the George Floyd protests in Chicago. And I happened to live, just down the street from the mayor of Chicago. And so there were a lot of these sort of impromptu manifestations and political protests, and then also presence of like riot cops and all sorts of like state interventions, and it, we could feel the way that kind of like there was like these like historical echoes between 1968 and 2020, and I was out there sort of participating, but then at home I was also thinking about this game and the way that it could represent sort of like the different events within a riot or within a protest, and like how it can get us thinking strategically and tactically about sort of like mass mobilization. Then it took a few years to find a publisher, and then by this year, 2024. It just so happens that the game is going on Kickstarter concurrent with the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, where I live. So it's like this sort of echo that just keeps happening.
There should be significantly less riots, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Like Chicago is definitely preparing for for street violence, right? We've been seeing a lot, like on our televisions and news reports, a lot of the sort of like anti-riot police training and demonstrations of police force that's happening. But we'll see. Now like then there was like unpopular, foreign wars, assassination attempts, and then of course like the president stepping down from office. So
there are some similarities,
there are, and differences as well, right? And this question of like, do we play history over and over again? What's that?
Yeah. Do they have a National Guard on maneuvers near Chicago again, or has it not quite got to that level of preparations?
No, I don't think there's Army deployment. But I mean, there certainly will be Secret Service. Who knows? Maybe there will be.
And there's a significantly more militarized police than there was 50 years ago anyway. So,
and that's probably something that we'll discuss when we'll talk about the different type of material that is being used. And that is a topic that is happening in other countries. I know that in France, it certainly has been quite a topic also over the last few years regarding how the police manages strikes, manifestations in the streets, and the increased level of violence, I think is an interesting topic. Maybe one last question, Yoni, regarding the game. What do you expect people to get out of your design when they after they've played it? Is it purely about history? Do you want them to reflect on social movements? Do you want them to reflect on tactics and maybe apply it to what they are living at the time? What is the objective here?
Yeah, of course, all of the above. It's the scope of the game itself is only 3 days during convention week, right? So there isn't a sort of some sort of universal model here for linking difference of domain of political conflict over the long term. So it really is sort of like focused on a specific historical event. However, like us being historical subjects in the present day, there is like a contemporary interpretation. So what I'm interested in is less of maybe like a didactic model, and more of like kind of a consideration of the way that circumstances and conditions which are perhaps sort of like a bit unpredictable can give shape to like political horizons. And as we'll go through when we start the game, you'll see that there's a lot of variability in the way that each game is set up. And this comes out of like these different responsive event decks. And being able to comprehensively see the possibility, the sort of strategic possibilities that these like events produce, will give you an idea of like what is possible, right? And this goes for both the establishment and the demonstrators, where like the establishment has different paths to approaching its law and order tactics, right? And likewise, the demonstrators have different paths, whether it's like a radical militancy, whether it's violent confrontation or nonviolent resistance, or even sort of being absorbed into into party politics.
Okay. And maybe a question for you, Joe. So you've been developing this game, and I was wondering how was the relationship with Yoni? How have you been articulating working together? I guess that you were originally interested in the topic. Knowing you, I guess this was probably a reason why you decided to also work on this. But how is it going so far?
Yeah, I mean, as you guessed, I was very excited to be asked to develop this game. It's a really fascinating topic, and I think a really unique approach to it. So I just had to say yes. Luckily, it's also been great working with Yoni on the game. He could have turned out to be really difficult to work with, and I still would have wanted to work on the game. But actually, it's been great. We've been meeting pretty regularly, almost weekly, to chat about how the development's going and maybe play a few rounds and work on the game. And yeah, it's been really fun. We've also been meeting regularly with Yoni's brother Ronan, who's in the chat and is also helping with the game development. So it's been really nice working with both of them, getting to know them a bit, chatting about all kinds of things just in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, it's been a really good time. So we're pretty good friends now, and I'm really excited to see what Yoni and Ronan do next in game design too.
And I'm curious about your relationship with the topic, Joe. I was wondering if you learned things through the design, like the development process. Was it something you were familiar with, or did the game help you actually understand some of the implications of the event?
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't that familiar with the historical topic, and I've done some background reading on it now and watched some really fascinating documentaries Yoni sent me. So it's been really great learning about that. I was quite familiar with the topic insofar as the general idea of street protest, and it's been really interesting looking at this historical example and case of street protest and thinking about how that's different to modern policing. And just to give one, I think, really fascinating example, in Chicago in 1968, the Yippies began organizing this Festival of Life in Lincoln Park, and they'd been denied permits. And what the police did is they basically stormed into the park and drove everyone out of it to enforce the curfew. So they said, you're not allowed in the park after 10:30 or whenever it was. And this forced them out onto the streets where they, some of the more kind of youthful, excited protesters ran riot and caused loads of trouble. And that's just completely different to my experience of protest policing in Britain in the 21st century, because in Britain, the police invented the modern tactic of kettling, where instead of doing that, they would have just kept everyone trapped in that park overnight and confined them. So it's a very different approach to policing, and it's interesting to see how that's changed since the 60s. And that's something we talked about a bit.
Yeah, and that's a tactic that exists in most modern countries. In French, it's called la nasse. And so what they do is we call nasse protesters. And yeah, you would definitely not remove them from a park. You would actually surround it and keep them here. Yeah. And maybe have them go slowly in small groups, being checked on the way and everything. So that's actually quite interesting. Okay, but I guess maybe we could jump into the game. We're going to play on TTS tonight. We're not going to do a full game. It's not going to be a full rules teach. But the idea is for people watching us to get a feel for how the game works, but also discuss about the history as we play it. So you can provide more context, Yoni. I will be playing against Joe, and you can facilitate the game, but also feel free to jump in and talk about different aspects, either of the design or of the history that is behind it. And of course, in the chat, if you have some questions, feel free to ask them. There is no specific structure to this teach and play, so it's really as you go. I will bring questions up on the screen, and Yoni or Joe can reply to them if that makes sense. Sounds good.
Sure, sounds great.
Cool. So I won't have access to the chat anymore. So while I'm streaming, so Joe, if you see something, let me know. I will revert back and put it on the stream. I'm not sure if you're an admin still, but
no,
yeah,
I'm not right now.
I can also keep an eye on it. Yeah.
Cool. So just keep me posted. So yeah, this is the game board, and maybe you want to give us an overview of what we're looking at before we start playing and do the rolling teach, just to have a broad overview of what's happening here.
Sure. Okay. So the main part of the board is the map of Chicago. It's a point-to-point map, sort of like zooming in. These sort of central areas here, the various sort of parks and sort of like main arteries of downtown, with some of the parks and the convention center, which are a little bit further north and south of the map. But as you can see here, like all the blue pieces are the establishment pieces. These are the tactical forces and police platoons that have been, and National Guard units that have been stationed in these different city areas. While the red cubes represent the demonstrators. Each cube is about, I don't know, maybe like 300, 400 individuals. On the sort of the top of the board up here is the exposure and delegate tracks, and these represent the 2 victory conditions of the game. Exposure represents basically your sort of like news media exposure, or positive sort of like media representation. Usually you get whenever you like resolve conflict in your favor. And this marker is going to move back and forth throughout the game. It's sort of kind of like a push and pull kind of thing. And I think also exposure a little bit more sort of like broadly. I think about it as sort of like the writing of the historical record, right? because like what is a riot other than sort of like the production of images, right? The production of media, and that could be photographs, but it could also be punk songs and folk tales and theater and things like that, poetry. The other track is the delegate track. So like I mentioned, right before the convention, Bobby Kennedy is assassinated, and Bobby Kennedy at the time was the likely nominee for the presidential candidate. And when he's assassinated, the way kind of like this crazy delegate vote system in the United States, there were these delegates that had to commit to either one of the remaining, the two remaining candidates, the leading candidates. One of them was Hubert Humphrey, who was the vice president, and he was sort of like the party's pick because he was seen as a continuation of the Vietnam War policies. And he's represented on the delegate track as the blue cubes. These are sort of like associated with the establishment aims. The other candidate was Eugene McCarthy, who was this sort of like somewhat an aloof senator who took the sort of like the anti-war position. And he's represented by the red cubes on the delegate track. When the game ends after 5 rounds, each round sort of representing half a day, we're going to assess a track. And the aims of the establishment is to have the exposure track on the blue side of the track, and have the most blue cubes in the delegate track. The demonstrators, on the other hand, only have to win on one of these two victory conditions. So they have the possibility of pivoting from the political domain and the delegates to the exposure, which is primarily through street actions.
Cool, but yeah, I guess that's so we have an overview of the tracks, what we're trying to achieve, an overview of we have the victory conditions, an overview on the board. I guess it's probably enough maybe to just jump in and start playing, and then we'll explain more in detail what is happening on the board. Cool. So I'll be playing the establishment because I always do. That's that's the way I am. And you'll be playing the hippies that I'm gonna educate. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. So where do we start? It's August 26th in the morning. What's up?
Cool. So as Joe was mentioning, the demonstrators sort of organized a festival of life in Lincoln Park, which is up here. The police swept through Lincoln Park, tear gassing it, and the next morning the demonstrators reformed in Grant Park, and there's this sort of like iconic photo of them jumping on top of this statue of General Logan, and waving the flags of the People's Liberation Front and whatnot, and red and black flags. So this is what we're looking at the moment. Most of the demonstrators are assembled in Grant Park West. The police are spread out throughout the rest of the city. The demonstrators have also grabbed like the chairs and bleachers and sort of like improvised barricades around Grant Park, which the demonstrators will be able to move across, but the police will need to dismantle first. Likewise, the police have created have started building barbed wire around the convention center, which is going to be a barrier for the demonstrators. But the first turn goes to the mayor. Now, the mayor is not physically present on board, but can change the and manipulate the like the game conditions through their action cards, which are down here.
Can we see the mayor's action card? Yeah.
Yeah. So the way the game works is that each side is playing out of 2 different hands of cards. There's a leadership hand and a rank and file hand. When we're using sort of the fixed order turn order structure, the mayor gets to play 3 cards from the leadership hands, which is already kind of like splayed out here. And it's an I go, you go thing. So you will play 1 card, and then the demonstrators will play from the Yippee hand, which is their sort of like leadership or vanguard hand. And then after 3 cards are played from each hand, we'll switch over into the rank and file, which is the Chicago Police Department and the MOB, or the National Mobilization to End the War in Vietnam. So first turn is always the mayor. Fred, you have a couple options to choose from, and right now we're playing open-handed. This is essentially like an action menu. Usually, what we do is you pick a card you want to play, do the thing, and then flip it. You have a couple of options. You can you can mandate, and mandate is sort of like the most sort of significant thing you can do, which is mandate allows you to activate as many policies in the policy display that you can afford. You're going to be using capital from the municipal budget, and capital here, of course, like it's not just financial capital; it's also like political capital and public buy-in.
And where is it represented for me? Where is my capital?
Right here in
the
municipal budget. Yeah. So right now we start with 4 capital, and then you can activate cards in this tableau, which we can come back to in a second. Other things you can do, you can start manipulating the delegate count here, which is one of your victory conditions by working the machines. You can bring more police officers to the map. You can grease some palms and gain some more capital. You can authorize barbed wire, which is a way of getting this barbed wire into the police supply, which during the next rank and file phase you can place on paths. And then strategy of confrontation is a sort of like allows you to swap out your tactics cards, which is like a free action that you'll be able to do later during the police phase. So what sounds appealing to you right now?
I think I want to prepare. So I'm thinking about using the mandate card. So I'm gonna activate this. I'm gonna put it like this. Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm just doing this. So I have 4 budgets, so I can do 4 of those cards.
Not exactly. So you'll see the cost written on here, but essentially the first cost of any card is going to be 2 capital. Then second activation will be 4, then 6, and 8. So it'll be progressively more expensive.
Yeah. As you're doing. So if I want to do 2 cards, I need at least 6 cubes.
No, just to clarify, that's the cost to use an individual card multiple times over multiple turns over the same turn. So each card, the initial use of each card is always 2 capital.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unless it's something like flamethrowers. Yeah.
Right.
So I can do
basically what we do is we place the capital on the card
exactly.
to
that shows
remind you what the next cost will be. Yeah.
Okay.
There is one card here. If you want, you can deploy flamethrowers, which will cost you 4 capital as a.
I'm gonna wait for flamethrowers. I'm gonna get some tear gas, because tear gas is like the bread and butter of good crowd control.
Sure. So you have your police, your general supply here.
Yeah.
You have 4 tear gas tokens. Go ahead and place them in the police supply. Yeah.
I'm going to add this to the police supply, so that sounds good. I don't care too much about the National Guard yet. And I think I'm going to do the permits denied, get 1 exposure every time a rally flag is removed this round. So that gives you maybe a sense of what I'm going to try to go for, but I think it's probably for the best. So that was the mayor turn, and that was mandate.
Cool. All right.
I'm going to flip it.
So we'll place one of this active tokens here just because this card is active for this round. And by the way, these are rally flags. This is an ability that the demonstrators have to place rally flags in areas of control. And then this is essentially kind of like a recruitment site for additional demonstrators to come in from the general supply.
I guess the way to think about that thematically, I think, would be that there's a lot of demonstrators milling about, not really doing much in the whole city, and that's getting them into a more useful active state rather than new people coming in necessarily.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll go over control and things like that a little bit later. Because during the leadership phase, it's really like there's not going to be a lot of conflict, right? It's during kind of like the rank and file, in which like you're going to be able to, make arrests and engage in street battle and that kind of thing.
That was the first mayor turn anyway. So now we go over to a Yippee turn. And Fred, I turned these cards around so it'll be easier for you to go and take a quick look at them.
Yeah, I saw that. Thanks for that.
I'll just talk through these, I think, Yoni, and then take my Yippee action. So the Yippies have got just 3 different actions, but I can use 2 of them twice in a round if I wish, although I'm still just doing 3 actions in total. So I can agitate, which lets me put more agitators down into street theater. I can lead, which lets me move people about, and I can rally to place rally flags. And I'll talk more about how those work as I do them. I'll do each one once probably. I'm going to agitate first. So if you have a look at agitate, it lets me first replace any mob, which is one of my cube types, with an agitator in the same area as an agitator. And right now in Grant Park West, I've got 1 agitator, which is the little meeple figure. It looks kind of like a matador right now. And I've got quite a lot of mobs. So I've got small level 1 mob units, which are kind of slightly more inexperienced protesters, and then 1 big level 2 mob unit. The mob was the kind of larger mass movement, right, Yoni? Whereas the agitators are the Yippies and the more kind of extreme agitators. Yeah. So I'm going to replace one of these small mob units with an agitator. And this will be important later on for control, because the agitators don't influence control. They've got kind of 0 strength value for control, whereas the large and small mob units help with that. So I'm focusing more on a political thing there. The next thing that agitate lets me do is draw street theater cards up to the number of 3 agitators I now have. So that's agitators not in jail, and I have 2. I start with 1 street theater card out on the board. This is normally random, but we've chosen here Unbirthday Party for LBJ, which is the suggested first game card. And then I'm going to draw 2 more of these cards, and then I'll talk through what these cards do. So I draw them and I add them to this little splay here. I can have up to 5 here at a time. And each street theater card, as you see, has got a bar at the top colored in one of the area colors. And this shows me where I need to have an agitator in order to use the effect of it. So this one you're highlighting now, if I can get an agitator to Lincoln Park, I get a permanent power now to draw an extra street theater card whenever I agitate by doing the Festival of Life. And what all these represent is different kinds of acts and happenings and so on the agitators were involved in during the time in Chicago. And I think it's a really interesting way of kind of highlighting some of this and also highlighting the very chaotic nature of it. So as the protesters, you need to really take advantage of the opportunities that come up. So I could head to Lincoln Park and do that. I can also head into Michigan Avenue and do the Unbirthday Party, which will let me upgrade some of my units. This second one is a different kind of street theater card. This will need 2 agitators in Michigan Avenue, but then it will give me a new action card. This will go to the mob, who are my rank and file deck. I'll gain this action card, which gives me a little kind of mini clash action, conflict action here. For now, though, that's the end of my turn, so I finished agitating.
Yeah. And so I'll say the opportunity cards is as you can see, like the establishment is going to start with a very sort of large decision space, right? And this reflects their sort of dominant position at the beginning of the game, because they have a pretty clear, I think, kind of like idea of what their objective is: gain delegates, and gain exposure. The demonstrators, on the other hand, are going to start with like very sort of limited set of actions, but they can use these street theater to build their hands, get more potential actions, get more cards into their hands. And then the street theater also acts as these sort of like mini objectives, little missions that you go on, because each one depends on the sort of the position of the agitators. And so that gives them directions of where to move across the map. So agitating is always a good action if you find yourself lost, right? Like where do I go? All right, so now we're back to the mayor. You can play a second card, Fred.
Yep. I'm gonna go for barbed wire.
Cool.
So I'm gonna add 2 to the police supply, and I'm gonna flip this.
Nice.
Oh, no, it's the other one.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. Cool. So that's great, quick. And one thing you can see here, we've been doing a bit of teaching, but once you know the action cards, or even just have them in your hand, the playing of each action is really pretty quick. There's a snappy back and forth here. If I stop talking. So one of my yippies has had the bright idea of heading back to Lincoln Park and trying to restart the Festival of Life, which got disrupted last night. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to lead. Lead lets me move 1 agitator and any number of additional demonstrators, which could be MOB or other agitators, through up to 2 city areas, moving across these paths. So I'm gonna do that. So I'm gonna grab 1 agitator and I'm gonna grab 5 level 1 MOBs, and they're gonna head off. They can head through this barricade because that doesn't block me. We can just hop over it because we're very agile. And I'm allowed to pick up or drop off as I go along. So I'm actually going to leave 1 MOB in this transit area for reasons that will become clear later. But basically, it allows me to maintain some easier movement through this area later on. Then I'm going to move the rest up here into Lincoln Park. And now I have an agitator in Lincoln Park. So at any point during a Yippie or MOB turn, you can use a Street Theatre card if you meet the conditions on it. So I've got this agitator in Lincoln Park, so I can use the Festival of Life card. And this has an ongoing effect. So we're just going to sit it over here next to my Street Theatre deck. And I'll know now that I can draw an extra Street Theatre card whenever I agitate later on in the game. Cool. So that's my turn complete.
Cool.
That's a lead.
All right, back to you, Fred.
And how many times are we going to do mayor yippies? Before...
So this is 3. So this is your last card for the mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna grease some palms to get some budgets for the next round, and potentially go up to 6 in the next round.
Yeah. So this is a good time to say you'll be gaining some capital as well from any major city area that doesn't have any demonstrators in it. So that's what these blue cubes are.
Oh yeah,
city areas on the map. Yeah. So if you can keep particularly Michigan Avenue clear, then all the shopkeepers and important people there are gonna give you some more.
I'm gonna be happy.
Put your policies in.
Yeah, exactly. That's good to know.
We call that the Magnificent Mile.
Yeah. Is it magnificent? Is it a nice place? Good place to hang out?
For tourists, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna rally just to show you my other kind of yippee action. So this lets me place a rally flag in every area I control that doesn't have a flag yet. So in this case, that's just Lincoln Park, and we can talk through why I control Lincoln Park. So this level 2 police platoon, big cube, is 2 strength. My agitator is 0 strength, and my level 1 MOB units are each 1 strength. So that's the simple way to calculate strength. It's basically just comparing all the cubes. 2 for the big cubes, 1 for the little cubes. That's more or less it, unless some other factors come in. Whereas the agitators and the police tactical forces don't exert any control areas because they're much smaller groups, basically. And they're focused on other things like street theatre or just beating people up.
Cool.
So I'm going to
And
put a
then,
rally flag there.
Let's also mention that the National Guard had +4 strength to the
National
overall
Guard
strength value of the police.
Yeah.
So they don't have any strength by themselves because they're more reluctant to fight the protesters, but they or allowed to, I don't know. But they they help with that. So the final thing I do when I rally, so I place my +2 rally flag there. I've got one +3, 1 +2, and 2 +1s, and that's how many new units I'm going to gain each round. Each round.
And then you also control this one transit area as well.
I do actually. Thanks, Yoni. So I'm also going to put a +1 rally flag there. Very nice. This is a less important area, these transit ones, but it's all worth doing. And what I'm going to do now is when I do this action, I also gain the exposure value of each area. And that's these red and blue circles. So I gain red exposure whenever I gain exposure. So it's slightly better for me to be in this park than it is for Yoni. So I'm going to gain 3 exposure there. And then I'm going to gain 1 for this transit area, which is just always worth 1 for each of us. So I've gained some exposure, started spreading the protest again.
Cool.
That's my final action. Then we're over to the next phase, to the rank and file phase.
And so for the rank and file phase, we we reverse the turn order. So we go, we start with the mob, with the demonstrators, and that means that it gives you an advantage, right? Because the last action is going to be done by the police.
Yep. So we can look at them. I put the mob cards out here, and this is the more kind of kinetic phase here. So I've got, again, just 3 actions here. I can march, I can clash, and I can speechify, which lets me gain units. I'm going to clash to begin with. So one thing to note about clash, it's marked here at the bottom as a conflict card. And that's because there's an extra thing you can do with conflict cards. You can discard it as a free action on your turn, so not as your card play, to remove a barricade. So for me, barbed wire for me, barrier. So I could discard this clash if I was adjacent to the barbed wire to remove barbed wire. Fred, you're going to be able to do the same with your police clash cards to remove barricades. So that's not your card play, but you're not going to be able to use that card for something else during that round. So in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna play this clash. Clash lets me target an area and injure a police platoon with lower strength than all of my demonstrators there. So I'm going to look at Lincoln Park in this case. I've got 4 strength. You've got 2. I'm going to clash there against that one police. And I'm going to injure it. One thing to note is even if you controlled the area, all of my demonstrators are targeting just 1 police platoon. So I can still injure one of your units, even if you have to control the area if you had more strength than me. So I'm going to clash there. That's going to injure this unit. This unit then goes to injured over here. And in this case, because it's a level 2 police platoon, it's replaced with a reserves unit. Exactly. So that's injured. And then I'm going to gain the exposure value again. So I'm going to gain 3 more exposure. Because all of the media are happily watching me beat up the police. And then I'm going to also raise instability, which is just written on the clash card here. This is another thing we haven't talked about yet. This instability meter normally goes up during the game, and I guess represents the general heightened tensions and increased chaos. And when if we reach 8, 10, or 12, I get to take one of these bonus tiles down here. If you, Fred, somehow manage to reduce instability to one of these blue levels, you get to take one of the bonus tiles as well. You've chosen not to do that. You actually had an option to do that. You had an option to peacefully negotiate with me, but you chose not to. So,
I looked
at it. It's too late for talking now.
I looked at it and I thought that's not the way.
No.
Yep. Good.
That's fine. Wait, there's one final thing that happens though. So whenever there's conflict of any type, we can look at these mob chaos cards down here. If there are 5 or more units involved in the conflict, in this case there were 6, because technically my agitator was involved as well, or if attack unit is in the conflict in any format, we draw one of these mob chaos cards, and this represents the more random chaotic outcomes of engaging in street battles. So I'm going to draw one of these, and it's each of these has got. Well, we'll wait for it to load. The cards have loaded a bit weirdly for you, haven't they? They're meant to be square, so they may not load properly in this case, which is unfortunate. I only
they look okay for me. I don't know, how does it look?
Yeah, they look fine for me too.
Yeah, I might need to.
Do you want to reload quickly?
Yeah, I'm just gonna remove from the.
I didn't notice that until just now. But yeah, each of these cards we'll see in a minute has got a kind of quote at the top from some either contemporary or shortly after the event kind of reporting, I guess, basically, or testimony. And then there's two effects, one for daytime and one for nighttime. So we're currently in the daytime, and the daytime mob chaos effects tend to favor the demonstrators. The nighttime ones tend to favor the police. Maybe while we wait, you can talk more about mob chaos, Yoni, what it is.
Sure. Yeah. So conflict in this game is fairly deterministic, right? If each conflict card is going to tell you who's in conflict. You can only activate it if you can resolve it in your favor. So, greater sort of strength value is going to win over lower strength value. However, if too many units are involved, right, that's going to cause like a mob chaos event, and that's when the game essentially is going to zoom in and give you like an eyewitness account of something that's like happened. It's from, most of them are from news articles or government reports on what happened. And yeah, like Joe said, since we're in the daytime round, we're now going to resolve like the daytime effect.
Yep. And this is a little quote, I think, from a local kind of radical paper, right? Village Voice.
Yep.
It's
not. I don't know how
left leaning, but maybe.
Yeah.
Left leaning. Cool. Yep. About kids ripping up the pavements, and the kids ripping up the pavements here is going to increase the strength of one of my mob units. So I'm going to replace this level 1 mob unit in Grand Park West with a level 2 unit.
It doesn't have to be in the place where it happened?
No.
Okay.
Unless the card specifies. In this case, it doesn't. So this is, the kids elsewhere are seeing some stuff going on there and thinking we're going to get involved down here. And it's going to increase the instability there. If it happened at nighttime, instead, you would get to move. So you get to move all your police around. Take advantage of the chaos.
Okay.
Cool. That's my turn. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. What do I choose from? Is
all
it?
right. So you're
down here.
Your deck is down there.
Yeah. Ooh, sorry, didn't do that.
Ooh.
Yep.
All right.
We don't actually need hands for this game. Yep. Okay.
Right. As you can see, most of your cards are going to be conflict cards, right? The main actions of the police is going to be the way that you're going to be getting exposure. You have 3 different kinds of like arresting you could do. You could advance, or you could do a mass arrest. So advance is like basically like a move and attack. A mass arrest is like attack multiple demonstrators and arrest them. And tear gas is a little bit special, which maybe we can do. So I mentioned before police tactics. They're on the lower right corner of the board. Yep. So as you can see, you have like for this round, you have like a one-time sort of special action. You can fly one of your tactical forces, which you have 2, one in Michigan Avenue and one in the Convention Center, to anywhere where you have a level 1 police platoon. So these are the small.
So it has to be a level 1. It cannot be a level 2.
Correct. So you could do that as a free action on any one of your turns. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you want to do the tear gas action, only the TAC forces can deploy tear gas. TAC forces can also do arrests and other sort of conflicts. Their ability is that they have essentially like maximum strength value, so they'll always win any conflict. But they'll also always trigger a mob chaos event, which may not be something you want to do during the daytime.
But I can prepare myself to be.
But also be aggressive because whatever.
I think I'm going to move that guy from. So I'm going to use that free action here to go from here to here.
Yep.
Okay.
That's going to be that, and I'm not going to use tear gas just yet. Right. I think I'm going to take the move action.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Move any number of so it's anywhere on the board, so I can pick
Yeah.
multiple spaces.
Correct. Yeah.
But if you want to move through one of those barricades, you're going to need to basically forfeit one of your conflict cards to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's important as well. Yeah.
Which one are the conflict cards?
The ones
with the blue bar at the bottom. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking.
And I suspect you may want to move through one of those barricades. Possibly.
I'm not sure. I think it's fine. I think it's fine for now. So I'm going to do the move action. And I'm going to move so from here to here. And I think I'm going to move.
Well, there's no path. There's no path there, Fred.
Oh,
you need
yeah,
to get to
right.
a transit area first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I mean, that's kind of a good time to talk about transit areas and what they represent, which is basically that there's some more distance here. So Lincoln Park is considerably further north, right? So it will just take longer to get there from Michigan Avenue. Because it's not exactly a kind of literal representation.
Yeah. So I might need to remove one of those first. So I'm not going to do the move action. So if I wanted to remove this.
Yeah, so to remove that is basically a free action. So you're not spending your whole turn doing that. Yeah, you can still do the move, and then you just discard or forfeit one of those cards, exactly.
So I'm forfeiting this to remove that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
I'll stick it over there.
Yeah, over there.
So I'll tell you also one last thing about the rally flags. So to remove a rally flag, what you need to do essentially is remove all the demonstrators from that city area. So if there are no demonstrators there, no one's going to show up, right? One very easy way of doing that is tear gassing. And remember, you can only tear gas with your attack forces.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to do this instead. Boom, boom, boom. Let me think. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that.
And then, since you have a clear path, why not bring in your attack force into Grand Park West?
Oh, and I can. I can also move them. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. That's cool.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, then I'm happy with that. Actually, that's good for me. So that was my turn, right? I played the move action. I did that free tactical support, and then I removed the mass arrest just to. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna move the advance instead.
Yeah, sensible.
And that, I guess, kind of represents you using some of the kinetic effort of the police to dismantle barricades instead of fighting. But you're doing it as you move, basically, in this case.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna march because you've started moving around, so I'm gonna start moving around. I'm gonna march. March lets me move any number of demonstrators, which includes mob and agitators, from one area to an adjacent city area. But then they can keep moving if I already have a demonstrator there. And that's why I left that demonstrator in the transit area early. So that's keeping that path open for me. So I can actually move from Lincoln Park all the way through here. I could move all the way to Grant Park and then even down into Washington Park if I wanted to, or to other places along the way. So I'm gonna leave just one guy in Lincoln Park because I'm worried about getting mass arrested by that attack force. And I'm gonna move down here, and then I'm gonna move into Michigan Avenue. And I think I'm gonna keep all three of those in Michigan Avenue. And I'm leaving one up here in Lincoln Park because the presence of just one mob unit prevents you gaining the income from there and also keeps my rally flag there. So that's still something you're gonna need to deal with, kind of irritating to deal with, even though they've run off again. Which is kind of what happened last night. We're back now, run away from the park, and we've run onto Michigan Avenue where we're going to start causing havoc. This also means I can now use my Unbirthday Party Street Theatre card, even though it's not a Yippie turn, I can still use these during mob turns. So we're going to hold the Unbirthday Party for LBJ. Was it actually LBJ's birthday during the convention? Is that right?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Okay. So we're going to hold the end birthday party, and we're going to replace 2 level 1 mob units there with level 2 units. I believe that's what it does, which is pretty good. So I've got quite a nice big fort up here in Michigan Avenue. I'm actually contesting control of it now, which is very embarrassing for you. And then that gets started, which I'll put over there. Okay, that's my march actually complete. Yeah.
So
and this kind of already begins to show some of the dynamic of the game, where the demonstrators kind of need to run circles around the police and try and evade their more powerful units.
So I cannot do a mass arrest here anymore.
You can. So mass arrest, importantly, like my clash card, mass arrest, you target up to 4 of my demonstrators with all of your police. So you've got a total strength of 5 there, so you can arrest up to 5 strength worth of my units. Up to a max of 4, if that makes sense. And that includes the agitator, who's strength 0. Yeah.
Okay,
up to 4, actually, yeah.
Up to 4. So I'm going to do
up to 4 strength, exactly, yeah.
I'm going to do the mass arrest. This one is for free, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
they're going to be placed into Cook County Jail, which is over here.
Yep.
And then I'm going to arrest those 4.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. You can do that.
Yeah. And those 2, they go back straight into your...
Nope.
No, they go to jail. They all go to jail.
Oh, everything goes to
jail.
jail.
I'm going to be able to bail these later, and we'll talk about it when it happens. Yep.
And when I do mass arrest, do I get something regarding exposure? Yeah.
You do?
Yes, you gain exposure.
You get 2. So as you can see in like the distribution of exposure, you're incentivized to send your police into the parks because that's where you're going to get more exposure, right? If the demonstrators get into the convention center, if they're able to like initiate a clash there, they're going to get 6 exposure. They're going to get the maximum amount of exposure. Even if you're able to go there and make arrests, it's not a good look. You're only going to get 1 exposure point from that.
You want to be beating heads in the parks, basically. So that's done mass arrest. Now, also, there were 5 or more units involved in that conflict. There were, in fact, 6 involved. So you draw
mob chaos as well. Mob chaos. Yeah. And that's establishment and reduce level 2 mob strength by 1, increase instability by 1, if not at max. So I'm gonna. It doesn't go into injured. I just decrease it.
Yeah, just decrease it. Yeah, I don't get injured as such. Yep.
And instability.
This is where it's been injured.
You already moved the instability?
No, it goes up again. Yep. Oh. Great. Cool. Then it is over to me, and my options are fairly limited. I can clash again, and I probably will. I can speechify to add more units. Actually, this could be a useful time to do that. No, because you've used mass arrest already. So I'm gonna clash in Grant Park West. So it's not great for exposure, but it's fine. So I've got enough strength to injure one of these level 2s, which is what I'll do. And then I gain just 2 exposure. And then I'm going to increase instability, and we will draw a mob chaos. So I'll do that. Cool. It's William Burroughs. Thanks, William Burroughs. I can activate 1 street theatre card from a discard. Cool. Unbirthday party, the LBJ would let me upgrade another. I haven't got 2 there, but it would let me upgrade another one. So I'm going to upgrade this mob unit again.
Don't you need an agitator there? Oh, no. Okay.
I don't with this because the mob chaos is just letting me activate it. William Burroughs is doing some agitating all by himself. Thank you.
So that's going to be my last action.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do tear gas.
Cool. All right.
So I'm going to do tear gas here.
Okay.
And here.
Great. So we're going to resolve this in
I have order. It has to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be where the task forces are. We'll resolve it in the order that you wish. So where you want to activate it first?
I'm going to do it here first.
Okay. So cool. So what happens is how do you rotate the
F? Do you want to flip it? F.
No, I want to flip it.
Yep.
There we go. Cool. Not necessary, but fun anyways. Okay, so what's going to happen right now is first the demonstrator is going to have to get out of that city area. Demonstrators cannot go into a city area that has a tear gas token in it, and they may not cross barbed wire. If we get into a situation where the demonstrators cannot move out of the city area, they're all going to be removed from the board. And this is critical because if at any point there are no more agitators left on the board, then that's an automatic loss for the demonstrators.
Yeah. So one thing I was looking out for, Fred, is if you put your other tag force here, I'd have been really worried about getting my large group here out of Lincoln Park, because you control the order. So if you tear gas here, then all those guys would be trapped basically, and you'd cause a mass casualty event there in Park. Now I can disperse across any of these paths. So I'm going to disperse a bit chaotically like this, and send one of those up there, and then I'm going to send the rest down here to Washington Park. And that also removes the flag, because I've got no units left, which I believe is going to gain you an extra exposure from limits denied. Yep.
So you gain
one. Gain. Yeah.
3 + 1, 4, or just 1?
Exactly.
4.
4.
So 4.
Yeah, you gain that one as well.
So
yep.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Cool. Yep. All right. Now the same thing's going to happen up in Lincoln Park.
But it's a bit simpler. I just have to come down here. Yep.
And then that's going to be for me. That's going to be 3.
Yeah, because I lost another rally flag. Exactly.
Cool.
Cool. Right back where it started. And you'll do that. Yeah, we raise instability by 1 automatically, don't we, from TS? So that goes up, and that happens before the mob chaos. So that goes up, and now I get to take one of these. There are 4 of these with unique effects, and they each just get used at most once. So I could gain 5 exposure immediately. I could gain a level 2 unit. I could, and if I gain mine, then you can't gain yours. I could gain this, which gives me a bonus action at any point. This is probably the most complex, because I can use that at any point. So I could do 2 actions in a row, potentially, using that, basically. Or, well, I'd have to, or +1 splay, which means I've got more room to street fitter. In this case, I think what I'm going to do is actually take the bonus unit, because I can go into any space, right, Yoni?
Correct.
So the instability has spread then into the Hilton Hotel.
Yeah, the only place you couldn't put it is where the tear gas token is.
Yeah, I can't put it with. I can't do because it's tear gas. Yeah. So I'm going to stick that up there. So I've got an extra in the Hilton Hotel now.
Okay, cool. All right, and that's the end of the round.
Oh no, Fred needs to draw mob chaos.
Sorry. Oh, that's right. Mob chaos. Yeah.
Because he used tag forces. Yeah. So he always needs to draw it.
And I only do it once, even if I tear gas in 2 spaces?
Yeah, it's only ever one in a turn, 1 mob chaos in a turn.
Yep. So the demonstrator must move 1 friendly unit to an adjacent non-park area and initiate a clash if possible.
I can do that. So I'm going to send 1 from here into Michigan Avenue, and then I can clash there and into this police platoon. Because that's just the same as my clash action, so you can always check the card if you want to see how that works. And this is actually a good example of this won't trigger mob chaos, even though it actually wouldn't have done anyway. But yeah, it just gains me the exposure and gains 1 instability. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Nice. Cool. All right. And that's the end of the round. So at the end of the round, there's a couple sort of quick things that are going to happen. One is, first, the round marker is going to move up. Second, demonstrators are going to flock. So wherever there's rally flags, so right here there's a rally flag with +1. So only 1 demonstrator is going to show up there. Let's see. Capital accumulation. So anywhere where there are no demonstrators and one of these capital bonus icons, you're going to get capital. So right now,
get 3.
Get 3. Yep.
That's 3.
Then you've noticed some city areas have the star in them. So there's a meet the press phase we call or event. Basically, like whoever controls those starred areas is going to get 1 exposure point per area. So right now,
I have 4.
You have 4.
I have 2, I think.
And Joe has 2. So that's 2 in my favor.
2 in your favor, yeah. Cool. And then lastly, if you haven't worked the machine and fixed the delegates are going to commit their either vote to one of the 2 factions.
So you can draw 1. Yeah. Oh,
there we
nice.
go. And we get a
Got
Eugene
him.
McCarthy. If I don't know, Fred, if you can do a quick search into the bag. And so
no, I cannot. I need to be promoted to do that.
That's not true. You can definitely search for bag grid.
Mm-mm.
You need to right click on it, quick search.
Yeah.
I cannot right click on it.
Try now. I just promoted you.
Fred, you turned off your interface. That's why.
Oh yeah, that's why. Yeah. So if I do search.
Oh.
Yeah. You can see that
so there are a lot more blues.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is an unlikely outcome, but a good one for the demonstrators, anyways.
I've got a bunch of street theaters which mostly target the convention center, which will let me add things to that bag and so on.
Yeah. As you'll see through play, each city area is associated with a different kind of action. So Michigan Avenue, which was a site of a big confrontation between the police and demonstrators, is going to be mostly cards that that allow you to build your fighting capacity. The parks are going to are more associated with like movement and getting more demonstrators involved. The convention center is going to be about manipulating the delegate track, the delegate bag. The Hilton Hotel is about it's a split between some more sort of board game state or sort of game state sort of management and preventing conflict and manipulating sort of like capital, for example. So that's something that like you'll see in further play. But that's it. That's one round. Now you have pretty much like 90% of the rules. These tear gas tokens are removed at the end of the round. At the end of each round, you're going to be drawing a delegate, and then during the very final round, it's just a quick sort of nomination phase. If there are any empty spots left on the delegate track, they're filled from the bag, and then victory is assessed.
Yep. I guess one other thing to mention, maybe worth us doing just to start the next round. So right at the top of the next round, I get to bail. So we go to the next round. I get to bail anyone from Cook County Jail as I wish, and it costs me 1 capital cube for each person I bail, which is just added to the capital supply. So I'm not really paying that, but I'm adding it to the supply. So right now, for instance, I want to get all 3 of these out. So I'm going to give Fred 3 more capital. And then I get to put them in any one park, and I can choose where that's going to be. So I'm going to stick them down.
And it's not linked to the strength. It's just the pieces themselves.
It's just 1 each. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, if you arrest more level 1s, I'm more likely to leave them in there. But in this case, I'm going to bail all of these and stick them down into Grand Park West like that.
Yeah. Okay. Should we play the night turn then? And
yeah. Let's go. We can play a bit quicker now because we've know what we're doing. So it begins with a mayor action. I've seen you eyeing up those flamethrowers.
Yeah, I think I want them. So I'm gonna do the mandate.
Cool.
So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna pay 4 for some flamethrowers. I think flamethrowers are probably a good way to.
So that's so the flamethrowers are over here. Yep. Go ahead and just add them to your.
Nice.
And then this card is actually then removed. I'm going to draw another one. You still have some more capital that you can work with. Reconvening is a good way of sort of like milling through the deck.
Yeah.
There's if you want different options.
And yeah, just on the costs, this can indicate now it would cost you 4 now to defam it's denied or take out authorization.
Yeah, but I could do the reconvene and place those 2 there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It would get rid of one of them exactly. Yeah, that's right.
I'm not gonna do that just yet. I'm happy to have this option. What do I want to do? I think I'm gonna redeploy the National Guard. And I'm going to move the National Guard from here to here.
So one thing to say about the National Guard, they only do anything if there are other police there. So because they add +4 strength to the police, they don't fight by themselves. If that makes sense. That could
but they can only move to an adjacent
yeah,
city
exactly.
area.
So I mean, that's still useful. Yeah. Cool.
So that would be useful for the future. And then, what do I want to do?
So Fred, you are leaving the convention very vulnerable at this point. If you
you
Yeah,
think
I'm
so?
gonna make it.
yeah.
Because if I can get in there, I can get 6 exposure very easily. Whereas right now, it's going to be hard for me to do that.
Okay.
You could move the National Guard out of the Hilton Hotel, but then I've got a guy there who'd
Oh,
be able to
but
clash with this
they're already
week.
there, so that's not that useful. I think I'm going to negotiate, and I'm going to decrease by 1 because I feel like now that I have flamethrowers, it's a good time to negotiate.
And then
so you can
get to
pick
draw a street
a
fit.
theater card, yeah.
I got Hilton Hotel on the anti-war sympathy. Cool.
And I think that's I'm wondering if I'm going to reconvene to get more tear gas.
Yeah, you won't get more tear gas, but you'll get other cards, and they're all useful for you in some way or another.
Yeah.
Reconvening is not a bad idea.
Oh,
yeah. You draw new policies. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do reconvene, and I draw 2 of those.
Yep. Yeah. Draw 2, pick 1, and then activate that one for free.
Mobs may not move out of areas with National Guard units this round.
Which actually would have been nice to deploy the National Guard somewhere and then pin down.
Yeah, that's fine actually. I think I'm gonna. So I have to replace one of the cards that are already there, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm gonna remove federal backing, and I'm gonna do seal bridges, and that means that you cannot move through. Yeah, you cannot move through that. So that's good.
They will put that active token back on there. Remind us. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
And I think that's it for me. Yeah, that was my mandate.
I'm going to begin with agitate again. It's a good thing to do. Start. I'm just going to replace one of these in Washington Park with an agitator because if I replace in Grant Park, I'll lose one of my level 2s, which I don't really want to do. I don't need to replace, by the way, so I could have chosen not to, but in this case I want to, so I can draw more Street Fitter. John and Alan. Women's Strike for Peace. And now, good. I got a counter-revolutionary, so it's a good time to talk about these. There are 5 of these in the deck, I believe.
Yeah.
Which when they're drawn, I need to put them down. So if I draw more cards than I had room for, I would normally get to choose which I'm going to add to display and which I'm just going to discard. This one has to be added now. So I found a suspected government mole, and that's going to block up my Street Theater display until I choose to get rid of somebody, kick this guy out of the movement. I don't need to do that right away, but I can do that at some point later on. But yeah, that's done now.
Cool. So Fred, as the establishment player, you don't necessarily need to go in there and read each one of the Street Theater cards, like but
I was curious.
The color coding, I understand. The color coding is going to give you an indication that there's a lot of sort of like proposed activity around the Hilton Hotel.
I think I'm going to grease some palms, and I'm going to get 3.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm going to lead this time. Yeah, I'm going to lead, and I'm going to take this agitator here. What am I going to do? I'm going to take him here, and I'm actually going to pick up this other level 2. No, I'm going to leave the level 2 there. I'm going to take the level 2 like this, so I can pick up as I go along, and I'm going to come into the Hilton Hotel here. And then I'm going to use the agitator who's there now to do these actions here. So I'm going to use the anti-war sympathy, which is going to decrease instability further, but it's going to force you to remove one of your National Guards, which is quite a powerful effect. So you need to remove one. And there's something, it's an interesting historical thing that a lot of these National Guardsmen didn't want to, they're quite young guys, they don't want to go to Vietnam, so they're actually somewhat sympathetic towards the demonstrators in this case. I'm also going to do Women's Strike for Peace, which lets me which is also Hilton Hotel, so I can do more of these because I'm in the area. I'm going to put a peace token in a city area, and that prevents any conflict occurring there, remove at the end of the round. So I'm going to put a peace token down in Michigan Avenue. So we're going to be peaceful in Michigan Avenue for this round. Okay, that's the end of my turn.
Okay, and then I think I'm going to deploy officers. So I can pay 1 capital per platoon to place any number of level 1 police platoons from reserve to any city areas. I think I'm going to use all 4 of them. To place 4. And I'm going to place 2 here and 2 here.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that's it. And that's going to be back to you. And I'm just going to go away for a sec. I'm going to give some water to the dog.
Yeah,
so
sure.
you can talk about the history while I'm out.
Yep. I don't think there's anything. Well, I can take my turn as well. Don't really need to do that, although it'd be kind of... Well, I can do that and then rally. Actually, that's quite a good turn. I'm going to... Actually, well, Fred does that. I'm going to go for 1 second, then I'm going to do a killer turn. He's coming back now already. That's fine. I'll stay. But he's ready because I want him to see my amazing turn.
Yeah. So you're... it's interesting. He's got you pinned down with the ridges sealed around like Hilton Hotel.
Oh, I can't... it's not going to be as amazing as I thought then, but it's still going to be pretty cool.
Right.
And... Just doing a quick break to see if there are any discussions in the chat or things that we need to pick up on, or
I don't know what Twisted Sisters logo looks like.
I had a look and it is kind of similar. It's got like 2 T's, a T and then an S, but it looks a little bit like that Metropolitan Transit thing. Yeah. There was a message I posted earlier, Fred, which might be good to flash up, which is just a shout out to the artist John Biggs, who did the really excellent map here and is working on the other components of the game.
Yeah, the art is amazing. So is this the final art or still being worked on?
It's still being worked on. Yeah. So the board's pretty close. The card art is still in prototype.
Yeah. Cool. Because it looks really great. And as we were talking about before the stream began, like the amount of pictures that you have access to actually show the event is actually quite nice.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
Cool. My turn. I'm still going to do a pretty cool turn. I'm going to lead like this, and I'm going to drop off 1 guy here as I go, and I'm going to lead these into the convention like that. And the reason I'm leaving 1 there is that lets me use the Street Theatre Gene and Allen. There's a very cool documentary which Yoni sent me, recent documentary, right, about Jean Genet in Chicago, because he was here as a journalist, right, French writer, a journalist, so on. Here as a journalist, and had some funny adventures.
That's Gene and Allen is Jean Genet and Allen Ginsberg.
So I'm going to use that anyway. That lets me use a Yeti action card, and it can be one I've used before or one I haven't. So I'm going to use that to rally, which will then let me add my rally flag down. I wanted to put it in the convention center, but I couldn't get control of it. Sad. But I can still put it in Grand Park East. And just to illustrate here, I don't have control of the Hilton Hotel, even though I've got more strength than the police, because the National Guard are having +4. So I can add it to Grand Park East, and I'll do that, and that'll gain me 2 exposure. Cool, that's it.
So
that's the end of that. Yeah, so you go to your first police action now.
So I'm going to do the tactical support, and I'm going to move tactical support from here to here. And then the action that I'm going to do is a mass arrest.
Wait, did you, Joe, did you already do your MOB action?
Oh, yeah, it's MOB for police. Sorry, Fred. I got confused. I was just letting you have fun before you could do it. That's my fault. I lost track of things.
I thought you were... Oh, okay. Yeah,
it's MOB first. Sorry. So I'm going to clash in the convention center. Yeah.
There's that hinge point where the demonstrators can play a back-to-back cards. Yeah,
which I forgot. Yeah. So it goes my lead and then your.
But how? Oh, yeah, that was the lead that led you here.
Oh, yeah. I completely cheated though, because there's barbed wire in the way. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, I was confused.
It's just a complete cheat. Let's forget about that then. Let's say that I instead of them like this here. That's fine.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's cool. So now I will use one of my. I'm just cheating all around. I'm going to use one of my clash cards to get rid of that barbed wire first, and then I'm going to march into the convention center. That's fine. I'll just do that.
Okay.
And then we're back to where we were anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Cool. But it takes me 1 more turn, so Fred's now got a chance to do what he wants to me elsewhere.
So I'm going to do the tactical support, and I'm going to move from Lincoln Park to the Hilton Hotel, and then I'm going to do a mass arrest. and I'm gonna do a mass arrest in the convention center.
Cool.
So.
Oh no, you can only do one. I see. Yeah.
No, he'll be able to do that. Yeah, he's fine. He can do
Right.
it. And that'll just get him one exposure there and arrest me all. Yep.
That's one exposure.
And there were 5 total involved, so you still draw a mob chaos.
And it's night now.
Yep.
Add level 1 mob and a rookie to Hilton Hotel. The police may activate mass arrest there. Cool. Rookie is it's a
rookie,
small
police room reserves.
Yeah,
that's old text, but it'll be changed eventually. Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to do a mass arrest, and I can do up to 4.
Yeah, and you'll be able to grab them all because you've got attack force there and the +4 from National Guard. So.
Okay, so how many can I?
It's still 4.
You can take 4. It's still 4 max, but you can take 4. So you can take that level 2 there if you want as well.
I already removed 2 level 2s.
Yep.
No, it's not 4 strength. It's 4 units.
Oh, so I can do this, and including this one. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And that gains you 2 more exposure, and you draw another mob chaos. Yeah.
No, you only draw 1.
No.
There's only 1.
Sorry, you've already.
Yeah, it was part of this one.
Yeah, you're right. You can see it's getting late here in the UK. I'm beginning to lose track of things. Cool. Well, that's put me really on the back foot, Fred, and that was very nice. So I'm gonna speechify. Speechify lets me. I haven't done that yet. That lets me activate one of these rally flags. So that flag I just put in Grand Park East, I can speechify there and add some more AV protesters. I get 3 in this case. There we go. Great.
Okay. I'm gonna deploy barbed wire, and I can deploy.
It's from your police play. Any amount of barbed wire from your supply.
And I was supposed to have some because I paid.
Yeah,
for
you have
some.
to. It's here.
Oh yeah, I couldn't see it. And I can place it anywhere I want, right?
On any paths adjacent to your police, which is
everywhere.
Yeah. So I'm gonna place one here, and I'm gonna place one. One here.
And this is where where we can get into the what we were talking about before, kind of like you can actually deploy sort of cuddling strategies. Using
exactly. You can trap me. So you're doing more of a defensive posture here, but you can be more aggressive and kind of trap me into Grand Park West.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but then I didn't have any good options to block you anywhere with 2 barbed wire. So I thought I would go defensive. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. That's cool. I'm gonna clash then, and I'm gonna clash in Michigan Avenue. So I have these 2 mob units.
Because
I put a piece.
Strike for peace there.
Okay. This movement, this messy movement. Okay, so I'm gonna clash here instead then, which is not so good, but I'll do it anyway, and I'll injure this one. I can only injure this one because these guys I can't beat at all in a clash with attack forces, and this is strength 2. I'm strength 2, so I have to injure one of the level 1s. That just goes to injured, and I gain just 2 exposure, and I don't draw mob chaos in this case because there's just two units fighting. I do raise instability though, and actually this is good to know. I raise instability always with clash. If it comes back to a level I've already reached, I don't gain a new tile for it. And if you want to, you can track these with these active tokens, but it's normally fairly easy to keep track of, I'd say.
Okay.
Okay. So, that was horrible.
So I'm going to do my attack force move. And I think...
Oh, that's once per round.
Once per round. Okay. So and I'm going to tear gas where I am. So I'm going to tear gas.
Yep. So Fred hasn't played this game in a while. The first round, I felt like I had a good advantage knowing the game well. I feel like Fred has really got to grips with things now, and I'm in trouble.
So I'm going to tear gas here, and I'm going to tear gas here. So I'm going to start here, and this one cannot go anywhere.
He can go to the convention. Oh, no. You're right, he can't because of the National Guard.
The bridges have been sealed off.
Yeah, so he gets removed, which doesn't mean he's dead necessarily, but he's been badly injured or demoralized and flees the city.
Do I get the 2 again?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, cool. And then I'm going to tear gas here, and they can go wherever.
Okay.
And that's going to be 3 for Fredo.
Cool. Yep. And mob chaos. You're also going to first raise instability and then mob chaos.
Yeah, so raise instability and then mob chaos. And we're at night. The mayor may activate the higher officer action card effect. But
You don't have any capital left. Yeah.
I don't have any money, so yeah, I cannot do anything. Okay, but that's fine. Yeah, I got a few for free here anyway, so that's okay.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Cool.
Right. That's the end of the round. Yep.
So I'll go ahead.
Through this. We'll move the round marker up. I get more. Yeah, you can grab that. Yeah, I was lagging there. I get more demonstrators here. And one here. Yep, which is not that useful yet. Then Fred gets capital. He gets quite a lot. Wait, he doesn't get that. He gets 1, 2.
No, I don't
3.
get the 3.
Just gets 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get 4.
Yeah. Well, you might get some bail money soon.
Yeah.
You might get some bail money. Yeah. Then we do meet the press, and I control just 1, and Fred controls 5, I believe. So you're going to gain 4 there. Oh no, you gain 6 actually. So you gain 5 total.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm pretty good on the exposure track.
Yeah, and actually, let's pause for 1 second just to talk about something which hasn't come up. But this track only goes to 8 on either side. If you would exceed it, there's a special effect. I think it's just worth mentioning this. So if you exceed your side, Fred, you need to change your tactic, which might be good, might be bad, but basically, what you've been doing has worked, so you're going to switch to something else, so you do something different for a bit. If I exceed my end, I have to take 1 MOB unit from the board and put it into the delegate drawback. So again, so that's basically, we've got a successful street movement, and as anyone who's been involved in a successful street movement knows, there comes a point at which people start transferring it into politics instead, for better or for worse. So that's going to happen then. And so you'll lose board presence, but gain that. So one thing you can do, if you really pound that, you can really fill that bag full of red cubes, then you're going to be much weaker on the board. So that's what happens with those. But we've been quite close in the middle so far.
Yeah.
Cool. Final thing is the delegate vote, Fred. So you can draw the thing for that. Sorry, grabbed a cheap bit.
So I'm gonna draw 1, and it's a red again.
You're gonna have to do something about that, Fred.
That's looking pretty good. Yeah.
But I'm thinking the more red I'm removing, the more blue there are left. That's
that's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So this actually gets to the core of some the decisions that the establishment has to make, right? Fred, you've been very good at arresting and containing the demonstrators, but you haven't really paid a lot of attention to
the convention. Yeah.
The convention.
Yeah.
Now, like your strategy, I'm looking a little bit forward to the next round.
I think you're misunderstanding my strategy here, and that may be a limitation from the game. It's like I don't really care about the electoral process. What I'm trying to do is have police on the street and flamethrowers, And when I have flamethrowers on the streets, I mean, you can win your little convention. It doesn't really matter to me. It's like that's not really what's important. So
fair enough. Fair enough. In order to win the game, you do have to win on both tracks, but you don't have to necessarily win the game. I'll point to a couple of quick things here. With strategy of confrontation, you can go ahead and change your tactics. At this point, you may want to reenact one of these, one of the historical events, which was the raid on the MacArthur Suites. So at one point, in the Hilton Hotel, where the opposition candidate was staying, his campaign suites were raided because there was suspicion of activists of activity there. This will allow you to remove 2 McCarthy delegates from the delegate track. There's other things you could do. You can start moving your injured platoons back into the city areas. You can also try to get, you can use your connection to the Chicago mob to, also benefit from the rise of instability. You can use crowd control to bring down those rally flags. And you can even use your political prowess during the rank and file phase to activate some of the mayor policies out of turn.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But that gives actually quite a lot of interesting options. I think it's a good point to now actually in the stream to stop playing and maybe chat a bit about the game and maybe the reception so far. So the game has been on Kickstarter for how long now? Like a
3
week
days?
or
maybe.
3 days.
Yeah.
And what was the goal for the founding campaign?
It's kind of a joke, but it's $6,800.
That makes sense.
You
Yeah.
know, the
I
game.
didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Okay.
the U.S. pledge for the game is $68. So we just leaned into it.
I genuinely only just noticed that. You know,
Yeah.
it just had gone way over my head. So that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I like that.
And so far, where are you at 3 days in?
I think we've passed.
We're at
25,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're at $25,000 now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And that's how many backers?
344. Just checking right now.
Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty
and
good.
raising. We're shooting up. That's pretty good progress. I think in 3 days. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing. So it means that the campaign was a success. You already reached what you needed to actually launch the production. Looks like it's going to be a decent print run for this game. So that's actually quite exciting. What do you think are the next steps after the Kickstarter campaign is done? Is it going to be more playtest and development, working on the art? What do you think are going? Yeah.
So the rules structure, the rule system itself is pretty much locked in. We'll keep working on the artwork, especially the card art. We have like a solo design where you play the demonstrators against an automated sort of establishment bot, and that's pretty close, but needs a little bit more playtesting and development. And what the solo system actually kind of like enables as well is a collaborative mode, because you can have you can split the decks between the Yippies and the Moog and work together against the establishment.
And who's making the solo bot?
Joe and I are solo.
To be fair to Yoni, unlike some designers who are nameless, Yoni had actually done most of the work and had a fully functioning great solo mode already. We just kind of tweaked it a bit and added some extra things.
Yeah. It's a really cool solo mode, because what it does is that it keeps track of your activities. So you mark with those active tokens where your demonstrators are going, agitating, clashing, things like that, and that becomes sort of like a dynamic priority system for the police bot. So they'll kind of chase you around the board, which lets you do things that you can't necessarily do in multiplayer games, where you can kind of create distractions on one side of the board in order to draw sort of police presence there, and then sort of time a certain kind of like activity on the other. So that's cool. I really liked it.
Yeah, we've actually we played a couple of games co-op of that, and I think it's been some of the most fun I've had with the game, and it would actually be a good candidate, Fred, I think, for your kind of co-op solo.
Once a crowd.
Style.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I think that could be actually quite interesting, but let's do that when the game is actually released. And I think playing a co-op together against the bot in the Once a Crowd series could be really fun. So that's really great. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game to be coming out. Happy to hear that the campaign is actually doing quite well. So that's quite awesome, and it's really cool to have those kind of topics being covered more and more. So I think that's really cool. You're actually, maybe just to widen up before we close the stream for tonight, just talking about the other games that you've been working on, Yoni. You've been working on the Luddite card game. Maybe you want to talk a bit more about this, and how do you feel like those two designs connect in a way?
Sure. So I think obviously I have like an abiding interest in sort of like social movements, and like thinking about different sort of historical moments where these kinds of like uprisings have occurred. The Knights of King Lud is a game. It's a cooperative game of industrial sabotage in 19th century like Midland, right? And it's a game. It's a card game. There's at this point there's no board, but what you're doing is kind of like I think of it as kind of like a collective engine building game, where you're creating an engine which allows you to destroy, different, like machine mills and factories. that that's sort of like the collective sort of objective of the game. Yeah, it's I'm currently like showing it to different publishers and hoping to get that out there. It's a small box game, but it has a lot of ideas and interesting sort of systems in it, and it's kind of in my mind at least, it's sort of like a response to sort of like the PAX system.
Yeah.
It's sort of like imagining kind of like the PAX market, not as a sort of like a capitalist economy, but as a gift economy, and it uses this sort of way of interacting with the market by being able to gift cards to other players. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be maybe interesting to feature on stream at some point. It could be a pajama stream or something like this, just maybe to garner interest maybe from people. Yeah. And I'm gonna have to end the stream now because the dog is getting more and more excited. She really wants to go out and have a walk and have a pee. So I think we'll have to.
She's desperate to head out into the streets and bite some protesters, Fred. I know what you're doing with that dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. She's
by all means. Yeah.
She's a war dog. So yeah. But yeah, she's getting a bit restless right now.
Sure.
But it was awesome to have the two of you on stream. Good luck for the rest of the campaign. I hope it does great numbers. Let's have you back, Yoni, in the future for covering Knights of King Blood. I think that would be really cool. I'm still very upset that you sent a prototype to Joe and not to me, even though I asked you multiple times to send me a prototype. So yeah, I take it personally, obviously. So that's okay.
Good.
But it was really, really cool. Thanks again, everyone, for watching. If you wish to support the show, well, you can subscribe. That's one thing. Even better, you can like this video, and even better, you can support the channel on Ko-fi, and that will give you access to our Discord server. And if you do, you'll be able to do a lot of cool things, like take part in Le Club de Jeu, which is us playing together games, learning them together, reading books together, talking about history and the topic, and then once we've played the game for a while, we record a collective review in the podcast format. The latest one was released, and it was a collective review of Successors. And I think the next one is going to be Plantagenet by GMT Games. So yeah, think about it. And I guess that if I didn't mess up, the link might also be in the description. But yeah, thanks everyone for being here tonight. I'll try to have a regular schedule, so I'll think about something to do for next Sunday. So follow me on Twitter to have some more information about what's coming up on this channel. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.